You think you know how to grill? Baby, you have not lived until a black grandma has handed you a plate off her backyard pit and told you to sit down somewhere. Today we are counting down 35 southern grilling tricks from black grandmas that will absolutely change the way you cook outside forever. Number 35. Salt your grates before anything touches them. Grandma did not have cooking spray sitting around, but she always had salt. Take a handful of coarse salt and rub it directly onto your cold grates using a folded paper towel or a rag. The salt acts as a natural abrasive that cleans any leftover residue, and when the grate heats up, that salt creates a thin seasoned layer that prevents sticking. This is especially important for fish, which tears apart on dirty or dry grates and embarrasses you in front of the whole family. Number 34. Use a chimney starter with newspaper soaked in used cooking grease. Black grandmas never wasted a drop of bacon drippings or frying oil. They kept a jar of it by the stove at all times. Soak a few sheets of newspaper in that saved grease, stuff them under your chimney starter, and light it. That grease-soaked paper burns longer and hotter than plain dry newspaper, which means your charcoal catches faster and more evenly. Your fire is ready in about 12 minutes instead of 25, and you have not wasted a single match. Number 33. Create a two-zone fire by piling charcoal only on one side of the grill. Every black grandma knew you never put everything over direct heat. Stack all your lit charcoal on the right side of the grill and leave the left side completely empty. Sear your meat on the hot side first to get that beautiful brown crust, then slide everything to the cool side to finish cooking low and slow without burning. This is the secret to chicken that is charred on the outside and fully cooked through without being raw near the bone, which will get you talked about at the cookout in the worst possible way. Number 32. Rub chicken pieces with yellow mustard before applying any dry rub or seasoning. Grandma swore by this and nobody could figure out why until you taste the result. The mustard acts as a binder that holds all your seasoning on the meat. But here is the thing. The mustard flavor itself almost completely disappears during cooking. What it leaves behind is a slightly acidic coating that helps break down the surface of the chicken so your seasonings penetrate deeper into the meat rather than just sitting on top. Bone-in thighs and drumsticks respond especially well to this treatment. Number 31. Season your charcoal itself by tossing a handful of seasoning salt directly onto the hot coals. This sounds wild, but it is real. When you sprinkle seasoning salt onto glowing charcoal right before you put meat on the grate, those seasonings vaporize and rise up into the smoke that surrounds your food. The chicken or pork absorbs some of that seasoned smoke flavor in a way you simply cannot achieve by seasoning the meat alone. Black grandmas understood aromatics in ways that formal cooking schools are only now beginning to teach. Number 30. Lay whole garlic cloves directly on the coals. This is the aromatic smoke trick that gives that deep, complex flavor you have tasted at a cookout but could never reproduce at home. Take 5 or 6 whole unpeeled garlic cloves and drop them right onto the hot charcoal. They will smoke and char slowly, releasing garlic vapor that seasons everything on the grate above. This works especially well with pork ribs and beef cuts. The unpeeled skin keeps the garlic from burning up immediately, giving you about 15 to 20 minutes of continuous garlic-infused smoke. Number 29. Marinate cheap beef cuts in pineapple juice overnight. Grandma stretched every dollar and she knew that budget cuts like chuck steak, bottom round, or beef shoulder could taste incredible if you handled them right. Pineapple juice contains bromelain, a natural enzyme that breaks down tough muscle fibers, turning a hard, chewy cut into something genuinely tender. Submerge your cheap beef in pineapple juice with garlic, soy sauce, and black pepper for at least 8 hours. When it hits the grill, it will cook with a slight caramelized sweetness that makes people think you spent way more money on that meat than you did. Number 28. Put a block of butter on top of your steak the moment it comes off the grill. This is non-negotiable in a black grandma kitchen. You pull that steak off the grate while it is resting on your cutting board or plate, and immediately you place a thick slice of cold butter, at least a tablespoon or two, directly on top of the hot meat. As that butter melts and runs down the sides of the steak, it bastes the crust, adds richness, and carries fat-soluble flavor compounds back into the meat. The steak absorbs that butter during its resting period, and the result is something so luxurious it genuinely does not matter what cut of beef you used. Number 27. Soak wooden skewers in sweet tea instead of plain water. If Grandma was making kebabs, she was not soaking those skewers in plain tap water. She soaked them in leftover sweet tea for at least an hour. The tea keeps the wood from burning while adding a very faint tannin flavor that complements chicken and pork beautifully. The sugar in the sweet tea also creates a very subtle glaze on the outside of whatever is threaded onto the skewer. It is such a small change and such a significant difference. Number 26. Make a spice crust for pork chops using brown sugar, smoked paprika, garlic powder, and onion powder. Black grandmas understood that pork chops on the grill dry out because most people cook them wrong. Combine 2 tablespoons brown sugar with 1 tablespoon each of smoked paprika, garlic powder, and onion powder, plus salt and cayenne to taste. Press this crust firmly onto both sides of thick-cut bone-in pork chops and let them sit for 30 minutes before they hit the heat. The brown sugar caramelizes on the grate and forms a crust that seals in moisture. You end up with a chop that is juicy inside and almost candy-coated outside. Number 25. Grill corn still in the husk after soaking it in salted water. Grandma never unwrapped her corn before grilling. She submerged whole unshucked ears of corn in salted water for 20 minutes, then placed them directly on the grate over medium heat. The wet husk creates a steam pocket around the corn, cooking it from the inside out while the outer leaves char. After about 15 minutes of rotating, the corn inside is perfectly tender, slightly smoky, and so sweet it needs nothing but butter and a little seasoning salt. This is dramatically better than grilling naked corn, which dries out and burns. Number 24. Use a cast iron skillet directly on the charcoal grate for small vegetables and fish. Black grandmas did not let anything fall through the grates, and they did not buy specialized grilling baskets either. A cast iron skillet placed right on the grill grate gives you an incredibly hot, even cooking surface for things like sliced zucchini, okra, shrimp, or fish fillets. The skillet holds heat better than the grate, eliminates sticking, and gives you those beautiful sear marks while keeping delicate items intact. Season that cast iron with a little oil before you set it down and let it preheat for 5 minutes before adding your food. Number 23. Wrap cheap pork ribs in aluminum foil with apple juice and brown sugar for the first 2 hours. This technique is known as the Texas crutch in competition barbecue circles, but black grandmas were doing it decades before it had a fancy name. After getting color on your ribs over direct heat for about 30 minutes, wrap them tightly in foil with a splash of apple juice and a handful of brown sugar. The ribs essentially braise in their own steam and juices inside that foil packet, breaking down tough collagen and creating incredibly tender meat. Remove from foil for the last 30 minutes to firm the crust back up. Number 22. Brush fish fillets with mayonnaise instead of oil before grilling. This one sounds controversial, and it is 100% correct. Mayonnaise has a higher smoke point than most oils, and it contains eggs which create a protective coating on the surface of the fish. Brush a thin layer of plain mayonnaise on both sides of your fish, season it well, and lay it on a preheated, oiled grate. The mayonnaise crisps up beautifully, seals in moisture, and the fish releases cleanly from the grate every single time. Grandma used Duke's mayo, and she would argue with you about it. Number 21. Place a water-soaked piece of bread on the coals to create a burst of steam inside the grill. When your ribs or whole chicken need some extra moisture during a long cook, Grandma would drop a piece of stale water-soaked bread directly onto the coals. It creates an immediate burst of steam inside the covered grill that prevents the meat from drying out. This is a technique she discovered purely out of resourcefulness, and it works better than expensive water pan setups that grill companies sell you as accessories. Number 20. Score the skin of chicken pieces before marinating. Take a sharp knife and make several deep diagonal cuts through the skin and into the flesh of your chicken thighs, legs, and breast before they go into any marinade. This is not just about looks. Those cuts allow your marinade to penetrate deeply into the thick parts of the chicken instead of just sitting on the surface. When you grill scored chicken pieces, the marinade in those cuts also caramelizes and creates extra flavor in every single bite rather than just on the outer surface. Number 19. Add a splash of liquid smoke to your charcoal lighter fluid. If Grandma was using lighter fluid, she was making it work twice as hard. A small splash of liquid smoke mixed right into the lighter fluid before you pour it over the charcoal means the very first burst of smoke your coals produce carries that deep hickory or mesquite flavor. By the time the lighter fluid smell burns off and your coals are ready, that smoke flavor has already started building up on the interior of your grill. This is especially effective with short cook times when you would not otherwise get enough smoke exposure. Number 18. Rest your grilled meat on a bed of sliced onions instead of a cutting board. When you pull meat off the grill, Grandma never just threw it on a bare plate. She had a layer of raw sliced onions waiting on the platter. The hot meat rests on those onions, and the heat from the meat gently softens them while the onion releases its juice, which bastes the bottom of the meat as it rests. You end up with a natural sauce forming underneath your steak, chicken, or pork chops, and those barely cooked onions are incredible on the side. Number 17. Keep a spray bottle of apple cider vinegar and water on the grill at all times. Mix equal parts apple cider vinegar and water in a spray bottle and keep it right by the grill. Anytime flames flare up too high or your meat is getting too dark too fast, a quick spray knocks the flames down without cooling the grates dramatically the way plain water does. The vinegar also adds a faint tangy note to the outer crust of ribs and pork shoulders that mimics the flavor of slow-smoked pit barbecue. Southern black grandmas use this constantly. Number 16. Put a whole onion directly into the coals to make a natural grill cleaner. Before you start your cook, take a halved onion and let it sit on the hot grate cut side down for a few minutes until it has some char on it. Then use tongs to rub that hot charred onion cut side down across the entire grate surface. The heat and the natural oils and acids in the onion lift residue, kill bacteria, and leave a flavorful coating on the grates. It smells incredible and completely replaces a wire brush, which Grandma did not trust anyway because of the bristles. Number 15. Season your grill grates with rendered bacon fat instead of cooking spray. Keep a small tin of rendered bacon fat near the grill and use a folded paper towel held with tongs to rub it across the hot grates before cooking. Bacon fat has a higher smoke point than butter and it seasons the grates the way you season cast iron. Everything you cook afterward picks up a very faint bacon richness in its crust that is impossible to achieve with olive oil or spray. Black Grandma kitchens always had bacon fat available because nothing was ever wasted. Number 14. Cook sweet potatoes directly in the coals wrapped in foil with butter and brown sugar. Cut your sweet potatoes in half lengthwise. Place a generous slice of butter and a tablespoon of brown sugar on the cut surface. Wrap them tightly in heavy-duty foil and bury them in the hot coals on the edge of your charcoal pile. After about 45 minutes, you pull out the most incredible caramelized sweet potatoes imaginable. The coal heat is intense and even, and it creates a depth of flavor in the sweet potato that oven roasting simply cannot replicate. Number 13. Use leftover coffee grounds in your dry rub for beef. Black grandmas who drank their Maxwell House every morning knew that the leftover grounds had a second life. Mix a tablespoon of fine coffee grounds into your dry rub for brisket, chuck roast, or ribeyes. Coffee contains bitter compounds and natural acids that react with the beef proteins during grilling, creating an extraordinarily dark and flavorful crust. The coffee flavor itself does not come through in the finished meat. What you taste is an intense, deep, almost chocolatey richness in the outer bark that people will not be able to identify, but will absolutely not stop talking about. Number 12. Butterfly your whole chicken before putting it on the grill. Grandma called this spatchcocking before anyone called it anything. Cut out the backbone of a whole chicken with kitchen shears or a heavy knife, then press the bird flat. A flattened chicken cooks twice as fast as a whole bird. The skin crisps evenly all the way across, and you eliminate the problem of the breast overcooking while the thighs are still raw. Season aggressively under and over the skin, and put it bone side down on the cooler side of a 2-zone fire for the first 20 minutes before flipping. Number 11. Grill bananas in their peel for a no-effort dessert after the cookout. When the coals are dying down and everyone has eaten, Grandma threw whole unpeeled bananas directly on the cooling grate. After about 8 minutes, the peel turns completely black and the inside steams into a caramelized, almost custard-like texture. Split the peel open at the table and eat it with a spoon. Add a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top, and you have a dessert that required zero preparation and uses the last heat from your charcoal that would have gone to waste otherwise. Number 10, build a foil boat for vegetables so nothing falls through and burns. Take 2 sheets of heavy-duty foil and fold up the edges to create a shallow tray. Toss your vegetables, whether it is okra, green beans, bell peppers, or squash with the oil and seasoning. Pour them into the foil boat and set it directly on the grate over medium heat. Shake it occasionally. You get roasted, slightly charred vegetables that have cooked in their own steam rather than dried out from direct flame. And cleanup involves throwing away a sheet of foil. Number 9. Baste ribs and chicken with a mop sauce made from leftover pickle brine. Black grandmas never threw away the brine from their pickle jars. That tangy, seasoned liquid is an incredible mop sauce base. Mix pickle brine with a little hot sauce, a splash of apple cider vinegar, and some of your dry rub spices. Using a clean brush or a folded rag on a stick the old way, apply this mop sauce to your ribs or chicken every 20 minutes during the cook. The acidity keeps the meat moist, tenderizes the surface, and adds a bright tanginess that cuts through the richness of pork fat beautifully. Number 8. Put fresh herbs directly on the coals for aromatic smoke. Grandma kept thyme, rosemary, and sage in her garden, and she tossed fresh-cut bundles right onto the coals before putting chicken or fish on the grate. Fresh herbs produce fragrant smoke for several minutes as they char slowly. The oils in the herbs vaporize and coat your food with an herbal aroma that no commercially produced wood chip can replicate. Thyme works especially well with chicken, rosemary pairs beautifully with lamb chops or beef, and sage gives pork an incredible depth. Number 7. Finish grilled fish with a squeeze of lemon and fresh butter right on the grill. Do not wait until the fish reaches the plate. In the final minute of cooking, squeeze a lemon wedge directly over the fish while it is still on the grate and immediately drop a small pat of butter on top. The lemon juice and butter combine with the fish juices and create a quick pan sauce right there on the grate. When you plate the fish, you scrape all those combined juices off the grate and pour them over the fillet. It is an effortless sauce that Grandma made look like pure instinct. Number 6. Let steaks come to room temperature and pat them completely dry before grilling. Grandma took her steaks out of the refrigerator at least 45 minutes before they hit the fire, and she pressed paper towels firmly against every surface to remove all surface moisture. A dry steak sears dramatically better than a cold, wet one because water turns to steam on contact with heat, and steam prevents the browning reaction that creates flavor. A dry steak at room temperature makes direct contact with the hot grate and develops a proper crust in the first 2 minutes rather than steaming and turning gray. Number 5. Use a brick wrapped in foil to press chicken flat and speed up cooking. Place your seasoned chicken pieces on the grate and then set a heavy foil-wrapped brick directly on top. The weight presses the chicken against the hot grate, increasing contact, speeding up cooking, and ensuring even browning across the entire surface. Grandma used whatever heavy thing she had nearby, and the result is pressed grilled chicken that is crispy on both flat sides with no uneven spots or lifted edges. This technique comes directly from traditional methods passed down through generations of Southern cooking. Number 4. Make a sugar and salt dry brine for pork shoulder and let it sit overnight uncovered in the refrigerator. Combine equal parts coarse salt and white sugar and rub every surface of a pork shoulder generously. Place it on a rack over a sheet pan and leave it uncovered in the refrigerator overnight. The salt draws out moisture initially, but then it gets reabsorbed back into the meat, taking the dissolved sugar and salt with it as a natural brine. The uncovered refrigerator air dries the surface of the pork, creating a pellicle, which is a tacky surface that smoke adheres to beautifully. When this brine shoulder hits your charcoal grill the next day, the bark it develops is extraordinary. Number 3. Smoke whole heads of garlic and peppers on the cooler side of the grill to make a compound butter. Set whole heads of garlic and a few jalapenos or serranos on the cooler side of your two-zone grill while your meat is cooking on the hot side. After 30 or 40 minutes, they will be completely softened and smoky. Squeeze out the garlic, mash it with softened butter, finely dice the smoked peppers and mix everything together. Roll it in plastic wrap and chill it. This is the compound butter that goes on top of your steaks and pork chops when they come off the grill. It is made entirely from things that were already on the grill using heat that was already there. Number 2. Control grill temperature using the vent holes at the bottom of the kettle grill. Black grandmas who used Weber kettle grills figured out something that newer grillers spend years learning. The bottom vents control how much oxygen feeds the fire, which controls temperature entirely. Open them fully and your coals burn hot. Close them halfway and the temperature drops significantly. Close them almost completely and the fire slowly dies. Grandma did not have a thermometer. She managed an entire cookout using nothing but vent adjustments and the palm above grate method, counting how many seconds she could hold her hand there before pulling it away. Number 1, season everything twice, once before it goes on the grill and once immediately when it comes off while the meat is still hot. This is the most fundamental truth in Black Grandma grilling, and it applies to every single protein and every single vegetable. Season before cooking because the heat drives those flavors inward. Season immediately after cooking because hot meat and hot vegetables have open pores and absorb surface seasoning instantly in a way that room temperature food simply cannot. The second seasoning is what makes Grandma's food taste like it has layers of flavor that you cannot quite identify individually. It is not a secret ingredient. It is this. And here is your bonus trick that Grandma only told people she really loved. Keep a small pot of beans, whether it is pintos, red beans, or butter beans, sitting on the edge of the grill during the entire cookout. Every time smoke rises, every time fat drips and creates flavored smoke, every time you baste with mop sauce and the excess falls onto the coals, those beans are sitting right there absorbing every single bit of that flavor. By the time dinner is served, those beans have been slow cooking in the most complex smoke-infused, meat-scented environment imaginable, and they become the best thing on the entire table. Black grandmas have always known that the sides are just as important as the main event. And at a cookout, nothing proves that more absolutely than a pot of beans that spent 4 hours next to a charcoal fire. Now go fire up that grill and make somebody's grandmother proud.